So good afternoon, everybody. As Troy mentioned, each one of us are going to speak a little bit about our own journey in life. But really, each one of these presentations reflect our community. I mean, I think everybody sitting here today is going to be able to relate to something, if not most, of what we're talking about in each one of our presentations here today. So I think it has broader impact, I hope, and I hope you all take away something today. I wanted to let you know I'm an attorney. I've been practicing for 25 years, and I've tried hundreds of jury cases in Cook County and the surrounding collar counties in northern Illinois, but I don't think I've ever been this nervous. Yeah, it's a little different when you're talking about yourself instead of your client. It's a lot easier talking about your client. But I think there's a fundamental paradox that I kind of wanted to address in my presentation, which is, as a cleft-affected individual, you're inclined to want to avoid scrutiny. But the problem is that when you try to avoid scrutiny, you cause more scrutiny. Generally speaking, people don't trust and fear things they don't see regularly, that they're not familiar with, that's something different. So I guess the theme of my presentation today is kind of get out there, live loud. And so I want to get into it a little bit in terms of the slides here today. So I was born in the 1970s. We're not going to get any more specific. I was born in Syracuse, New York, with a bilateral cleft lip and cleft palate. At that point in time, you didn't have the support groups that you do now. So I want to give my parents mad props for dealing with it. I mean, both of them were, athletic, attractive folks. We had a figure skater, my mom. My dad was track and field. They didn't know much at all about cleft, a lot like Allie said. I mean, there was no familiarity with the condition before I popped into the world. So, the surgeon fortunately told them, which wasn't entirely true, but it was what they needed to hear at the time, which was, you have a healthy son with a minor cosmetic problem. And that really was what they needed to hear at that point. Of course, it's a little misleading, which they found out later, but that was what they needed to hear to kind of get through that initial shock of the birth. So, okay, there's another one there. I was a poser early on, you can tell. And then moving into grade school, over the course of school, high school, and even into college, I underwent 14 surgeries for revision. When I was born, back then they didn't have a lot of the devices you have now. I was fed with an eyedropper because there really was no other way they could figure out to do that easily. Grade school and high school was a little rough. A lot of the bullying and things you expect, and people weren't as aware of it back then, I don't think. You just lived with it. So I had difficulties, but I had a great fortune of my family was very musical. And I found out I had a decent singing voice. So at an early age, in third grade, I believe I had my first vocal solo at school. My parents kind of nudged me and forced me to get out there a little bit. So I was on stage early and continued the singing and stage productions, theatrical productions all through school and into high school. This is my family. My mom and dad are here today. They're seated over there with my wife and my older daughter. I have a sister, Kara, who's a year younger than I am. She is profoundly autistic, fairly limited in her abilities. So really, my parents got dropped 2 bombs. I was the first, so I was probably the more shocking of the 2. But they dealt with a lot. They dealt with a lot. Now, as I went through high school and college, as I said, I was more involved in music and theater. And there were a couple things I took away from that. Number one was, the more I got out there in front of people, the more I was able to relate to people, and the more they were able to relate to me. The more they saw me, the less different I became. And it was extremely helpful. And I am so grateful to my folks for getting me to do that. Because inherently, I'm something of an introvert, believe it or not. And so that and the cleft, of course, you tend to want to not be out there, and it's critical to do that. Of course, when you do that, you take a lot of risks. And it's not for everybody, and I'm just telling you what worked for me. But I remember distinctly, I auditioned for Great America for one of their stage production shows there with my girlfriend at the time. And we sang a duet, did very well, and the response I got was, "You sing really well, but we're looking for someone who's good-looking and all-American." Oh, wow. And I said, well, apparently if you have a cleft palate, you can't be all-American, which was a little bizarre to me. And then in high school, I got a similar reaction trying out for a show there as well. So you go out on a limb, you take some risks, and you do get rejections, but what is important is to get out there. I married my lovely wife, Michelle. We had 2 beautiful daughters. Michelle, Maggie, would you please stand up? And the important thing here was sharing music with my kids so that they hopefully do the same thing and get out there a little bit. That's Michelle and I and a friend of ours at a wedding. And there's our family there. Now, currently, I'm part of a national touring band called White Rabbit Object. We're playing Louisville, Nashville, and Memphis in October. I'm looking forward to that tour. But, I'm on stage regularly playing guitar and singing, and I think it's great. Not just for me, I love it dearly, but also, again, to get out there and kind of let people see that, cleft-affected individuals are just like everybody else. So we have a great time on stage, and it's great to get out there and really share our music with everybody. And in case you're curious, we play like a gritty blues rock. That's kind of where we're at. And the important thing is passing that on to the next generation. So I share my music with my kids, and I think that's very important. Last but not least, perhaps most importantly, this is our dog, Blaze, and this slide is included solely for just unnecessary cuteness. But I appreciate your listening to me, and I hope this was somewhat informative. I'd be happy to talk to anybody here. Thank you all very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Eric, for sharing that. And Linda, are you ready?
I am. Hi. I think I'm live. Yeah. Hi, my name is Linda Morris. It's so nice to be here. I am, by trade, I am a speech-language therapist, and I am an adult with a bilateral repaired cleft lip and cleft palate. Also, my brother, who's 2.5 years younger than me, was also born with bilateral cleft lip and cleft palate. So I forget, how do I do this?
Just hold that one down a little bit.
This one?
Yeah, hold it down.
Thank you. Yeah, technology is not my friend, sorry. Yeah, this is what you get for being old. As part of my presentation, when I do speak publicly, I always want to dedicate my presentations in honor of my parents, who gave up everything to make sure that we had the best cleft care that we could get. We were born in the early 60s, and there wasn't much there. They literally uprooted their entire life and left Texas to move to Pennsylvania for a cleft team that could help us, because my brother was 7 years old before they could close his palate. So yeah, it was that much. So this is for my mom and dad. And this is just me saying, hey, I got permission to use all these pictures. Want to let, from my brother, yes, truly. Want to let you know we do have a little bit of a criminal situation. I am sitting next to attorney, so this is good. We have a little hooligan that has been accused, allegedly, of 3 crimes. The first one of littering across the Gulf Gate Freeway in Houston, throwing hearing aids out the car window because, and I quote, I didn't want to hear a word of anything y'all had to say, and I just wanted to have a nice day. Fast forward to number of lip revision surgeries where they put us both in the same room. Yes, I am saying in first person, I am admitting to the alleged crimes that I because my brother is perfect, and he will tell you that, was accused of starting a riot in the hospital, of chucking Jell-O shots across the hospital room at the nurses as they'd come in the room to take care of us. My mother was not impressed with that. Yes, we were bad. I was bad. He is perfect and innocent, and he will tell you that. The second one, and the third, is the rioting that we caused in the school lunchroom, because since his palate was not closed until he was 7, he had excellent aim with the milk coming out of his nose. Yeah, so I instigated people to cheer him on. Come on, let's go, come on, get that teacher right there. Yeah, we were just bad, just bad. So in looking forward, I wanted to share with you that I do have an agenda, and that I do feel very, very much empowered as a speech therapist to share my journey with the families, the clients that I work with over the years. But my history started back a long time ago with the fact that my mom was born with a unilateral cleft lip in 1927, and no one even knew what to do with that. They just told my grandmother, oh, it'll just heal, it's fine. Well, and I did. But fast forward to 1962, don't know why I typed 61. I've apparently had a senior moment on that, sorry. But my parents didn't expect, of course, the shock of having a child born with a bilateral cleft lip and palate. Here I come, 2.5 years later, here comes my brother, John, who we call him Larry. And between the two of us, we've had 54 surgeries. So yeah, a lot of lip revisions. Larry got the worst palate, more involved palate, a lot of tissue issues with having to move tissue around to get the closure. And I got the hearing impairment. Yes, lovely. So yeah, so it was our trade-off, but that's okay, you know? So what inspires me, as I said earlier, is my family, and these are pictures of my parents when they first met, and you can see a little bit of my mom's unilateral. She had expert skills with lipstick application, and she taught me how to do that, to hide it, to cover it, and I do wear lipstick most of the time, but sometimes I just don't care. People want to say something about my scars, go right ahead, whatever. My brother is an inspiration to me. He is a professional musician, just like Eric. As you can see, he was able to grow a mustache, but he has a lot of scar tissue right here in the middle around the vermilion, so that he could not grow any part of his mustache there. But Larry plays the trombone, the trumpet, beautifully. You would not think that a child with a repaired cleft lip could play those instruments. There's very little muscle control, you know, when you're going through all those lip revisions. You all know this. And Larry is just an amazing musician. So the other thing that inspires me is my opportunity to have seen something that was put out by Smile Train called Smile Pinky. And that was something that really touched me, and as a speech therapist, as well as a person with a repaired cleft lip and palate. I raise awareness through my professional organizations, ASHA, TISHA, and MISHA, Texas Speech and Missouri Speech and Hearing Associations. It is an honor and a privilege to be with the CCAC and working with families throughout my career, sharing our stories, and it's really been an honor to work with the advocacy group to get ELSA pushed through. So I'm really excited to be part of that this last few months. What affected me is the fact that what my mom always said, this is not the worst thing that could have happened to you, even though we thought it was. It really isn't. And being part of this community, I realized I'm in a room full of people that truly do understand what it was like to be teased and told that your parents must be brother and sister, and that's why you look the way you do. You guys, this is just, it's such an experience, and it's such a privilege to be here. And I know that we can all make a difference if we continue to share and advocate for this community. And these are just some of my little pet peeves. You can read them. I'm not going to spend time on them. The second one is a real off-putter for me, and I will call out any medical professional that uses that term. I've done it, and they got put in their place. And finally, this is just my information. If anybody would like to know more about my family's journey, you're welcome to email me, contact me through LinkedIn. My website is currently down. They're doing some uploading or something weird to it. I don't know what they're doing. I probably got sued and don't even know it. Hey, Eric. But anyway, so you all are welcome to reach out to me. It truly is a privilege and an honor to be here with you all today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much again for sharing that story. And like I said, we're going to have time for questions and answers at the end. And not least, but Pat, who I've known for a while now, and it's so finally good to meet her too. And she's going to share her story.
Hi, everyone. My name is Patricia Simon. And I want to first say thank you to Smile Train for holding this Cleft conference in Chicago. Now, it's not Chicago. When you go back home, it's Chicago. Just so. And so today I'd like to share a little bit of my journey. And I think the key word is journey, because life is a journey. A lot of times you think, I'm going to go along this path, but really in life there's so many roads and off-ramps and on-ramps that you go through, and this is all just part of life. And it's how you handle and move along in life. I am 61 years of age. I was born in 1961, Eric. Just saying. And so these are pictures of my parents and my godparents and that scary nurse over. And you will notice that in these pictures that I have no baby pictures, no frontal baby pictures. They're all, I'm covered with a blanket or I'm on my side. So it's very different. So if you think I'm 61 and being born with a cleft lip and palate was taboo. And it wasn't anything, you're proud to show like it is today on Facebook or LinkedIn, where people are so proud to show, this is my baby, look how beautiful my child is. So we have come such a long way in raising awareness about cleft lip and palate. So I am the youngest of 5. You could see the bottom picture there is my sister Sue, and she's here today. Sue, if you would stand up. It was interesting last night because someone asked Sue what it was like to be a sibling, to have, being a sibling to someone that was born with a cleft lip and palate. And it was just one of those, I never really thought about it. And I have to say that my sister, and we're only a year and a half apart, but we have this bond, and my sister has always been there for me. And there's been many times that I faced challenges that I was fearful and said I didn't want to go, bullying, whatnot. And my sister would step up and show me the way. And so just a great gratitude to my sister and my whole family for, like Eric said, pushing me out the door, go experience life. I am a registered nurse. I've done probably about 35 years in hospital nursing. And then I went into pharmaceutical nursing. And the interesting thing about this is I went to high school, and I never took chemistry. I then went to college, got my 2-year associate degree in business, because my parents were like, you can never go wrong in business. But I hated it. I could not stand doing debit and credit and all of that. So I wanted to go into nursing school. But in order to do that, I had to go back and take a high school chemistry class. I had already graduated, college graduate, but I went back in order to be able to become a nurse. So there's a lot of times in life where you have to step back in order to go forward. And that is one of the things that you have to just say, you know what, in order for me to do this, sometimes I have to go back in order to do what I really want to do in life. One of the first things that I think everyone needs to do in order to be the person you want to be is look at yourself in the mirror and love who you see. Love every wrinkle, every freckle. Look at your scar. You have to love yourself before other people can love you. The other thing is imperfection is beautiful. We are perfectly imperfect. Every single person in the room has some sort of scar. It could be a visual, internal scar, but every person has something that they're dealing with. And that's something that I think it's important to realize, that you may think someone has a perfect life. There is no such thing as a perfect life. We all have struggles. And so this picture, you'll see me as a child. This picture was taken. I was 50 years of age, and I went to the dentist, and I was diagnosed with an abscess at the roof of my mouth. And it's a long story, but to make it short, I ended up, as Allie did, at the University of Chicago craniofacial at 50 years of age. I walk into a clinic, and I received the most comprehensive team care. Growing up, there was no craniofacial teams. There was no hearing tests. There were no professional dentists that knew what they were doing. Speech therapy, nothing like that. I experienced that when I went to the University of Chicago, and I was just blown away by the whole team approach, because that is so important to realize that it takes a team to help. And so I walked around for 2 years without my 2 front teeth while waiting for the bone taken from my hip to build my palate. And I didn't care. I just walked around and smiled, and people would look at me like, what the heck happened to you? And I would say, you know, I was at a Blackhawks game, and the puck went flying, and look what happened. And they'd go, what? I'm like, yep, that's what happened. And so it was at the University of Chicago, in the waiting room, that I looked around, and there were no children's books for kids. And I thought to myself, that's just not right. There should be children's books for kids waiting to be seen. And so it was on that 2-hour drive home in Chicago traffic that it came to me about writing a book about Simon, a cardinal born with a gap in his beak, and how he meets Patty, me, with a gap in her lip, and how they became friends. So I was set out to do 1 book, but it led to 2, to 3, to 4, to 5, to 6. And all of these books deal with things that we all deal with in the craniofacial community. The book I wrote about going to camp, there were no books for me growing up. And so that book has to do with letting people know that there's camps out there for kids born with craniofacial issues. Dealing with bullying, acceptance. The other thing is, similar to Troy, I've got not 1 but 2 cleft lip puppies that are rescued. And there are puppies born with cleft lips and palates, and they live a wonderful life. So I'm trying to raise awareness as well. And then the last book, Simon Says Mask On, Mask Off, is written about taking your mask off, not just because of COVID, but people hide behind your mask. And whether it be a physical mask or one that you just put your shield up, it's all about trying to help you take that mask off and show people how beautiful you are. As Eric said, you have to get out there. You have to get out of your comfort zone and experience life. You'll meet the most amazing people. This is also, I'm a firm believer in traveling, whether it be coming to Chicago, going to cities, Europe, wherever. Experience other people, their cultures, their beliefs. It really helps broaden who you are, and it helps you with acceptance and understanding. Like I was saying earlier, there's a lot of challenges, but you can do it. Don't let fear get in the way. You look up and you think, I am never going to be able to do that. And you can convince yourself, I'm not even going to try. That is just so overwhelming. But you have to push on. You have to believe in yourself. And it's very important that you surround yourself with positive people. Negativity brings negativity. The key, I think, is surround yourself with people that lift you up. So hopefully you'll listen to this and you can go back and say, what is my story going to be? At the end of my life, what will my story look like? And if it's something that you're not really proud of, there's time to change and to move forward. This is, just really briefly, the impact that we all have on others. Abigail, her mother sent me a Facebook message when she was 7 years of age, saying that her daughter was born with a bilateral cleft lip and palate, and they lived in a small town in Maine. Would I reach out to her? Sure. So I have been friends with Abigail. She is now 10. And we do FaceTime all the time. And I had said to Abigail, could I put you in one of my books as a friend of Patty's? And there was a long pause. And then I hear a little voice say, well, could I be your sister? Oh, I was like, oh my gosh. So the last book that I wrote, we wrote together. Simon Says, Mask On, Mask Off, that has to do with wearing a mask. And all the characters are people that we have met through the craniofacial community. And through Smile Train, working with Smile Train and GlaxoSmithKline Consumer Health, they were able to distribute 500 books at the ACPA's annual meeting. They were able to distribute them to all different partners that you can see here. And so I think of Abigail as my little sister. And it's so important that we as adults are out there. We're role models. We are upstanding people that people can look up to us and say, I can do this. I've got this. And so it's just been a wonderful relationship that I wouldn't change for the world. And so if anyone wants to look me up, you can just basically type in Smile with Simon. And I write songs and create videos that I never thought, what am I doing? I don't know where it came from. So you can do anything you put your mind to. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think we still have a few minutes for, we have 10 minutes. So my wonderful colleague here, Sylvia, has a mic in her hand so she can run throughout the audience and answer. Yeah, so if there's any questions that you would love to ask these three. And thank you all very much for sharing your stories. Once again, it empowers us at Smile Train to even learn. It only helps us do our job more because, once again, I fortunately did go to school with a child with cleft. I knew a little bit about it, but not nearly the same with they. So by having these conferences and these awareness and bringing, that's what Smile Train wants to do, is bring that out there so more people know exactly what cleft is. Come on, there has to be some questions. I want to hear Eric sing, right? That's what you want to hear.
So you touched, loud. So you touched upon like getting teased and bullied when you were young, and what advice and like how did you deal with it, like as your young self, and what advice would you give to young kids who are going through the same thing now? Oh, anyone who wants to pick it up.
I can tell what I tell my students is when I have a student in speech therapy that comes to me for services that has a craniofacial anomaly, specifically cleft lip or cleft palate, I tell them, do what I tell you, don't do what I did. But I don't tell them any of the bad things I did. But I tell them, a lot of it is you need to know that you are amazing, who you are. And just because somebody says you have a smashed-in face or whatever it is they tell you, is that true? Is your face really smashed in? No, it's not. They're just, don't believe that. Believe in you. Like Patricia said, that negativity, and try to get away from all of that. And I tell them to talk to your parents. Let your parents know what you're feeling. Don't be afraid to open up to your parents. And if they are not with the cleft team, I really encourage the families to get with a cleft team to get the psychological support that the kids need, because it's crucial. Mental health is a big deal anyway, but when we live in a world where appearance is everything, perception is everything, the first thing that they see is the scar or the missing teeth, all of those things. So I really encourage kids, youth, to embrace the positivity and don't be discouraged by the number of bullies that you may encounter, because they're just mean and they're just ignorant and they're just mad at something in their life. It's not you. You didn't do anything wrong. That's my take.
My take is, I would basically, you have to reinforce to the child or adult that you are beautiful. It comes from within, and when you meet a bully, you have to just straight out say, you're a bully, and call them on it. I think it's so important that you're an advocate, that you have to be an advocate for yourself. And so you have to teach your child and teach yourself to stand up and say, hold on a minute. Whether it be in healthcare where a doctor's recommending something, you have to say, hold on, this is not right. I don't want to do this. I think it's very important that you have a voice, that you continue to reiterate the positivity, and that, again, that everyone is born with something, and don't let this person think that you're anything less than. We're more than. We're not less than.
I never really got that cerebral about it. I probably should have moved further along, but growing up, I think I was still at the you're a bully stage, stand up for myself, and then whatever happens, happens kind of thing. And I never really got beyond that. But no, it's certainly much more constructive to get help, to talk to people about your feelings, to deal with it that way. So I agree with both of you.